Enoch Nwali, you know him from Ebonyi State, has retained his crown in the Masters category in the fourth edition of Governor Diri National Scrabble Championship in Yenagoa. At the Bayelsa State capital, Nwali recorded 13 wins at the Chief Harold Dapa Brier Conference Hall with a plus of 1,229 cumulative spread to win the trophy and the 750,000 naira star prize and the winner. So for Nwali, he became the first player to successfully defend the Governor Diri National Scrabble with previous editions won by Oshevere. This is very interesting to know that Nwali is really doing so well when it comes to Scrabble, you know, in Nigeria.
Yeah, very interesting for me. I think he has actually made a name and a record for himself, becoming the first Scrabble player in this Governor Diri tournament to also successfully defend this very one. I think for me it's very impressive. And it's a clear evidence that we have talent abound in the country. We can also take a look at some of these top Scrabble players. I think it's going to serve for our own good. 3 years ago, thereabout, we also have Oshevere from Douye State also, you know, winning it, and we also have a certain player from Akwa Ibom State as well also winning. So for me, you can clearly see that we have the talent here in the country, and this one is just a championship being organized by a state, just one state in Bayelsa State. What if other state is following up with this kind of developmental stride in terms of Scrabble? I think it's going to serve for our own good. So I believe, just like what the governor said shortly after the conclusion of that very one, that his aim is to ensure that provide a fertile ground for sportsmen and women to also harness and brew their talent as well, and thereby taking people off the streets. You know, so for me, I think it's an interesting one. I hope the Scrabble Federation of Nigeria is also putting or paying keen interest to some of these tournaments so that they can be able to also select players and groom them from there going forward.
So that they can select players and, of course, groom them going forward. Let's move now to the next story. Of course, we have more interesting ones for you here. And let's move away from that now and let's talk about basketball, where Odaudu is on the showcase. Ogo Odaudu, remember him, the coach that led the Rivers Hoopers to the semi-finals of this year's Basketball African League playoffs. He has signed a short-term contract with Rwanda Energy Group Basketball Club. Rivers Hoopers did confirm this particular one, and of course also confirmed his departure via the S platform. The club announced that Odaudu will return after the conclusion of his short-term deal. The club also noted that Odaudu will rejoin Rivers Hoopers after his loan deal. And he ends to prepare for the upcoming 2024 Nigerian Premier Basketball League. I have a concern here, but let me get your thought on this particular one. Odaudu having a short-term contract with a Rwanda club. It's also the Rwanda club is also a club, you know, that will participate in PAN SCA, and they say it's a short-term loan deal. Your take on the general placement of the deal and how far the acceptance and the whatnot?
For the Rwanda club, I think they just saw the quality in Ogo Odaudu, having led the Rivers Hoopers to third place finish in the basketball championship out there in Kigali. Don't also forget he's one-time assistant coach of the D Tigers. So I think looking at that, he has also garnered much experience. Don't forget he's one of the African coaches that was picked by the NBA as well to be part and parcel of their coaching team out there. So I think with this lot of experience and with his impressive performance for Rivers Hoopers, they have seen it that indeed he can add at least some feather, some experience to their team out there. That is why the Rwanda club came for him, at least for a short time, more like coming to add more spices to give them more experience on how to go about achieving success in terms of the basketball team out there. And generally, take a look at the short-term contract. I think it's for his own good as well, because don't forget as well, he's not going there for free. A whole lot of money that he's going to rack up into his bank account within the period while he's there before the Nigerian Basketball League will officially kick off. So for me, I think it's a win-win situation for both parties, for both the Rwanda club, because it's going to add more quality, more skills and more experience, that they have garnered. It's going to add that to the team. Then again, on the financial aspect, Ogo Daudu as well will be smiling home to the bank, because it doesn't come for free. They must pay him heavily before leaving the club. And I think there is a perfect understanding between Ogo Daudu and the Rwandan club and the coach as well, talking about River Hoopers and and their head coach, because there are some clubs that will want to be very selfish and say, no, you are contracted to us, therefore you stay with us. We are not allowing you to go and make some money within the short period of time before our league kicks off. So for me, like I said, it's a win-win situation for both parties.
It's a win-win situation for both parties, and I tell you, Ogo Daudu will be chinking in some amount of money, in that short time. He's talking about basketball. The president of the Nigerian Basketball Federation, Engineer Musa Kida, has revealed that the secret behind the success stories of the D Tigers at the just concluded Paris Olympic game is, from the fact that they stopped the board members from imposing players on the D Tigers head coach. And at this point now, I think she will run Wakama. And so that allowed the lady to, pick the players of her choice that will prosecute the games or any championship they are going into. And that is the success according to Engineer Musa Kida.
Yes, I think for me it's indirectly opening the Pandora's box here, because invariably this is what the NBBL has been doing over the years to some coaches, imposing players on the coaches on who to choose and who not to choose, which for me sometimes it thwarts the effort of any head coach out there, because a coach will likely know the players that he or she wants for the national team, but because of these forces that be behind the corridors of power, those piloting the affair, they will say no, you are not going to use such player, use this very one. So it limits the coach capability or efficiency in terms of his technical output out there. Whenever a player is being imposed on you, first you will not be happy, because such player might not be able to understand your own working. Such player might not be able to grasp what or the kind of idea that you want to interpret in your team. You are forced to use a player that is not fitting for your own pattern of play. But when coaches are given the leverage, the freedom of hand to pick the kind of player that they want, they tend to do well, because they believe in those players. They believe that the player can be able to understand their own pattern of play and their philosophy out there. So it's more like trying to reveal some secret on what they have been doing. But saying that publicly, he did not know that he was actually shooting himself on the foot, and also washing their own dirty linen on the public, because invariably this is what they have been doing. That is why the team hasn't been succeeding or hasn't been doing well over the years, because they impose players on their coaches. No, now he's making it very clear that the reason why Renawakama, the D Tigers, were successful is that this time around the coach was given that freedom of hand to pick a player that she wants on her own, not necessarily being imposed on a player being imposed on her this time around, which for me I think is the right way to go. This thing happens most time when we have a foreign expert, in quotes, a foreign expatriate, the coaches here, whether for the national team, the football angle or whatever sport field, they tend to give that coach that freedom of hand, because those coaches, they don't take such a directive from you. You have given them an assignment, therefore leave them with that assignment to carry out the assignment. But then when we employ our locally or homegrown coaches here, we tend to be overzealous. There is this superimposition of authority over such local coaches by trying to dictate what such coaches will do. Do this and not do this. Use this player and don't use this player. As though when the coach failed, they will still blame the coach, not knowing that they were the one that actually caused the problem in the first instance. So for me, I think they should also learn lesson from this. That this time around that they failed to impose a player on the coach, at least we did something positive. So that is the angle they should start thinking about right now.
I agree with you totally, and I think that that's the way forward. I mean, this is not just a pointer to the activities, behind the scene, perpetrated by some of the federations, and more like also saying that the sports minister should not take this for granted. If this is a success story now, because we have seen the success, and it means that other federations are indirectly fingered, in the activities, especially in football. And this is a pointer to the things that shouldn't be done if we must achieve success. All right, let's move away from that and let's talk about tennis now. And we'll start from table tennis, where the World Table Tennis Tournament, WTT, has fined Nigeria Squadra Rona $5,000 for missing 2 WTT tournaments. Aruna failed to participate at the World Team Championship in February this year and the WTT Championship event in March, citing citing a sickness and a club commitment. However, Aruna, as reported has approached the ITTF tribunal after being fined $5,000 by WTT, which believes that was not justified. I mean, to him, he claimed that there was no fair hearing, and he has approached the court.
Yeah, this is what you need to be. When you are sensing some level of mistreatment, you have to approach the court of sports for you to at least ventilate your own part of the issue. The ITTF, imposing a fine against him of not taking part in some of their major competition either. But then, I think for me, he gave a cogent reason that he was not okay, wasn't feeling fine. And health, they say, is wealth. You have to be alive before you are competing in any championship. But the second angle of the excuse, I think that is what the ITTF is looking at because of club commitment. No, that is the angle I think is not tenable. That excuse is not tenable. But on the angle that he wasn't totally okay, I think that can be sustainable. And if now that he has approached the Court of Arbitration for Sport, I think they are going to give him that fair hearing because you need to hear from him the first instance a witness as well before you can possibly conclude anything right here. But like I said, I think he gave a very cogent reason in the first phase. The second reason wasn't tenable enough for me, and that is why they actually imposed that fine on him. But then I think he also need to wait the final decision from the Court of Arbitration for Sports.
My point that bothers me here is at the level of the ATP, players have the right to, via injury. Yes, you must make a reason. You cannot stay without participating in either ATP's Master Series or Grand Slam. There must be a reason why you will not participate because in every ATP they list the player that should participate, especially the top players. And those players are given on that particular one. So a player can decide to say, for the sake of rest, I've heard the player say, for the sake of rest, I don't want to be part of this particular one. I just want to rest. Some mental reasons, So at what point does the WTT, now say that except, he must participate in every of their series? For me, it's a little bit confusing because except the rules does not, the application of the rules isn't the same, in the ATP as lawn tennis and tennis.
No, you need to. I actually did a little bit of research because I was at some point worried, just like you are. As somebody said that he wasn't feeling fine, you must not compel the person. So I had to dig deep to know the reason, if that is what the rule says. And the charter that governs the Tennis Federation states very clear that before you could skip away from such major championship, you must notify the authority within the space of some time that this is what you are passing through and this is the reason why you will not be taking part in this very one. And it will be documented. And that gets you going. You can take your rest. Baby injury setting, very good. It's a tenable reason and acceptable one. But for you to just wake up after a major championship, you did not take part, you didn't give any excuse, there is no report whatsoever to the authority. You are breaching the rules, and that is why they had to come for, Haruna Quadri.
Well, let's see how it pans out. And Haruna Quadri has a case to answer. But first, the man has decided to, visit the tribunal for a case of not being heard. So let's see if tribunal grant him a successful verdict, then he can now have a strong hold on the case. But regardless, I think that is a wake-up call to other Nigerian athletes and others. I mean, professionally, you are binded by an organization, and if you must, the club also have future other players. So why you? And then for him, that is a top 20 rated player. A lot of lessons to be learned there. I don't know why we find ourselves in some of this situation, but I think it's not a very palpable and a very lovely one at that. All right, let's move away from that. Let's talk about the US Open. It has started, yes, and I can tell you for sure that the defending champion, Coco Golf, says she is treating this year's US Open as a victory. And after coming out in fine fashion, beating Varvara Krejcikova in her opening match. At 20, she began her title defense with a 6-2, 6-love victory in just 66 minutes on the Arthur Ashe Stadium. And of course, when you play at the Arthur Ashe Stadium, it is the biggest, and she is a defending champion. The big question is getting one over Krejcikova. With that, she should be very happy as a defending champion, Mike.
Yeah, as a defending champion, you need to start on a very positive note, at least to give your fans that hope and confidence that indeed you are ready to defend the title that you won last time out. And she has started in a very fine note, and it is also a statement of intent and a warning to other, players out there to also watch out that she's, coming. But then, of course, it looks so easy for her, and the reason is very simple. Because of the quality of the opponent that she came up against, wasn't a match to her. Because in the first seeding, the benefit that some of these high-ranked players enjoy is that you are going to be seeded against a lower-ranked players. So that makes it very easy for some of these players during the preliminary stage to also at least, pass the first test going forward. But then, I tell you, there will come a stage in the competition where they will definitely see Coco Golf meeting with some of the big name players, and that is where she needs to prove her worth if she's actually ready to defend the title she won last time out. But impressive victory for her.
Impressive victory for her. She will face a German veteran at the Jana Maria in the second round after the 37-year-old moved past Argentine qualifier Solan Sirius. This 2-6-3. Elsewhere, Olympic champion Zheng Guowen fought back from a set down to beat world number 50 Amanda Anisimova of 4-6, 6-4, 6-2 on Louis Armstrong Stadium. Dara Kakasina at the 12th seed beat Romanians 39 seed Jacqueline Christine 6-2, 6-4 to progress, while Ukrainian 27 seed Elena Vitolina came through in 3 sets against Maria Lourdes of Argentina. However, Maria Sakkari became the first top 10 player to fall, with the 9th seed forced to retire injured after losing the first set to Wang Yafan. A visibly upset Sakkari received treatment from the trainer to keep her shoulder and move on, but then she was nowhere to be found as she fell to the first set and was ultimately unable to continue into the second set. Very unfortunate one for Maria Sakkari then.
Truly unfortunate one. Many expected Maria Sakkari to come out first, at least to come out victorious in this very one, because of her name, because of her fame, because of what she has achieved in the past. But then it was a very difficult one. She clearly showed her frustration, when the decision began to go against her, and of course she had to receive some treatment out there. But then the clear frustration seen by her display clearly tells you that she wasn't good enough on a day like that, and she fell to the firepower of her opponent. I think for Maria Sakkari, she has not been able to gain back that her mojo, that flashes we used to know of her in the early days. She has lost it, and it's time for her to at least start thinking on what to do in her next step of career.
Meanwhile, American 14 seed Madison Keys, runner-up at Flushing Meadows in 2017, moved past Katarina Siniakova of the Czech Republic 6-4, 6-1. World number 1 Iga Swiatek and Great Britain's 39 seed Emma Raducanu, 2021 US Open champion, among the players scheduled to be in first round action today. So let's keep our finger crossed and see how far that order will happen in the WTA as the Slam as a former New York champion, lost to Ben Shelton. TM lost 6-4, 6-2, 6-2 to Shelton, and the two shared a warm embrace at the net. It looks like TM, the Australian international, this might just, isn't going down well at all for him.
At all. It isn't going down well for TM at all. He has had a very disappointing season so far, and one will begin to ask if she truly one of the new gem, or she has lost her prime period, So I think for Dominic Thiem, it's a very disappointing season that he has had so far. And I tell you, it's not a very good one, taking a look at the ranking where he finds himself right now. I think he's even going to drop further in the ranking right now because of this early stage exit. It's not a very good one. And this is the last Grand Slam of the year, where you expect most of these stars who have not won anything throughout the course of the season to fight so hard, at least make it to the semi-final or even quarter-final. But then being hosted out in the early stage, it clearly tells you of how has been.
And this man will come back strong and better. He's 30 years old now, and thank all those who came around to watch him losing to Ben Shelton there. He was also given a frame, a college of his best US Open moment in an on-court presentation afterward. And of course, his rival and friend overcame. It was all a lovely moment, but then all those ones are now in the past. Let's hope that as we move on, he will still. For Zeref, he still China. If 7-6, 6-2, 6-2 winner against Spain, Albert Ramos Vinolas. Argentina will now face a 12 seed and home favorite, Telefreeze, who beat Camelo Ugo 7-6, 6-1, 6-2 next. For 6 seed, Andrei Rublev of Russia also progressed, beating Brazil's 39 seed, Thiago Sibot 6-3, 7-6, 7-5. However, 15 seed Hugo Ron was stunned 6-2, 6-1, 6-4. 27 seed Alexander Bublik lost 6-4, 3-6, 7-6, 6-2, 6-4. That was the 5-setter there to China's Zhang Juncheng. Argentina Diego Schwartzman, who intend to retire from tennis next year, lost 7-6, 6-2, 6-2, 6-1 to France Gael Monfils. And then Novak Djokovic will begin his title defense later on today. The time frame isn't the same. That
It's more like a even if they did not win it, but then at least they get very far in this very one. And of course, don't forget that how far you get to is how far or how huge the money that will be going home will also be accumulating. Those of them that is going out in the first preliminary stage, I think they are going to get a little chunk of the money for this year's edition. But as you continue to progress, and that is how your money continue to grow as well. So it's more like trying to at least finish on a very high note, taking a look at the fact that this is the final Grand Slam of the year. So one of the we are beginning to see a little of the upset, in the ATP. Bublev being knocked out of the competition. These are some of the big names that at least you don't even want to think that they are going to lose in the preliminary stage of the competition. But it is what it is, and this is the game for you.